high star.
A typical loving wife.
Mother? Small man. And I think it's just about time you realized it.
Bewitched was not just a television show, it was a global phenomenon from its debut in 1964. The series' remarkable success turned it into an American cultural icon, earning numerous prestigious awards and ushering in a new era of supernatural sitcoms. At the heart of the story was Samantha Stevens, a beautiful, intelligent witch who seemingly gave up magic to live as an ordinary wife. Yet her married life was full of complications that forced her to use magic to solve every problem. From sudden explosions on set, pregnancies that had to be cleverly concealed within scripts, to the untold reason behind Dick York's departure from the role of Darrin that the public never knew. These all belonged to the mysterious and dramatic behind-the-scenes world of Bewitched. Have you ever wondered about these stories? Let's explore 20 strange, shocking and fascinating facts about Bewitched. 20. Elizabeth Montgomery was married to director Bill Asher. When Bewitched premiered in 1964, few knew that Elizabeth Montgomery and William Bill Asher were married. Asher was not only Montgomery's husband, but also the show's director and executive producer. He had made his mark with I Love Lucy and The Danny Thomas Show, but it was Bewitched that became the pinnacle of his career, a turning point for Montgomery and a testament to their creative power when combining artistry and life. However, tensions gradually arose off-camera. Working together revealed growing conflicts in their marriage. Rumours of Asher's extramarital affairs and Montgomery's feelings for director Richard Michaels during later seasons deepened the distance. On multiple occasions, Montgomery openly demanded changes in directing roles for certain episodes, or threatened to refuse continuing, a sign that the marriage had begun to fracture seriously. By 1972, Bewitched ended after 8 seasons, leaving an indelible mark on American television history. Yet shortly afterward, the Hollywood power couple also split. In 1973, Montgomery and Asher officially divorced, ending a love story that had been both passionate and bitter, nurtured through artistic collaboration but ultimately crushed under its own weight. After Bewitched, Elizabeth Montgomery devoted herself to more dramatic roles, moving away from the charming witch persona to demonstrate her versatile acting abilities. Bill Asher, meanwhile, continued working in television but never recreated the spectacular success of Bewitched. 19. The actress who played Gladys Kravitz kept her terminal illness a secret. Alice Pearce, who portrayed the nosy neighbour Gladys Kravitz, often brought laughter to audiences with her witty and charming performance. But behind the scenes was a bitter truth few knew. Just months before taking the role, Pearce was diagnosed with terminal ovarian cancer. Knowing she had little time left, she chose to keep the illness secret and continued working to bring Gladys to life for viewers. Early signs of her illness appeared as a growing frailty, yet Pearce never complained. Instead, she poured all her energy into filming, making Gladys Kravitz one of the most memorable supporting characters in the series. A jaw deformity from a childhood injury further shaped her unique comedic style. A curious, strict neighbour constantly caught in oh my god moments whenever Samantha used magic. Ironically, as Bewitched grew in popularity, the disease quietly claimed Pearce's life. She passed away in March 1966 at only 48, leaving colleagues and fans in profound mourning. 2 months later, the Television Academy posthumously awarded her the Emmy for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series, a well-deserved, albeit belated tribute to a talent taken too soon. After Pearce's death, the role of Gladys Kravitz was passed to Sandra Gould to continue the storyline. But for fans, the original Gladys, Alice Pearce, a small yet resilient woman who brought laughter while quietly battling illness, remained unforgettable. Do you remember Gladys? Share your thoughts in the comments. 18. The meaningful name Tabitha. Do you remember the name Tabitha? Seemingly just a small detail in Bewitched, it actually carries a fascinating and dramatic story. Elizabeth Montgomery, the on-screen witch Samantha, insisted on naming her daughter in the show Tabitha, as to her, the name carried a classic, mysterious and strangely alluring charm. Few knew the inspiration came from real life, the daughter of actor Edward Andrews. Incorporating a real-life name into the show made Tabitha not just a fictional character, but also a trace of reality. But the story didn't end there. When Tabitha first appeared, the show's credits spelled it as Tabitha, a tiny A, yet enough to infuriate Montgomery. For her, correcting the error was not just technical, but a matter of honour. The battle over the letter continued for several seasons, and ultimately, after much struggle, Elizabeth won. From season 5 onward, Tabitha was standardised in all scripts, credits, and official documents. Even more surprising, the name Tabitha quickly became a cultural phenomenon. Many American parents in the 1970s-80s began naming their daughters after the Bewitched character. 17. Dick York's painful ordeal. Dick York, Samantha's devoted husband, paid a heavy price for what seemed like a harmless accident. In 1959, while filming They Came to Cordura, York suffered a severe back injury during a strenuous scene. The pain never went away, making him dependent on painkillers. When he began filming Bewitched in 1964, the crew even built a slanted wall for him to lean against between shots, concealing his invisible suffering. But the pills, fatigue, and increasingly uncontrollable spasms took a toll. The climax came in 1969, when York suddenly collapsed on the Bewitched set during season 5, suffering a seizure in front of horrified co-stars. That moment forced him to leave the role that had made him famous. His replacement, Dick Sargent, tried his best, but could never fill the void in viewers' hearts. Yet beyond the spotlight, York's life turned tragic. Losing his job and facing deteriorating health, he fell into poverty, even cleaning bathrooms to make ends meet. The man once adored by millions became a shadow of himself, battling addiction and Hollywood's neglect. Still, in the darkest days, York founded Acting for Life to help the homeless, proof that his heart never stopped shining. 16. The Bewitched. Theme song had a secret lyrical version. The familiar, upbeat opening melody of Bewitched, usually heard as an instrumental, once had a full lyrical version. Composer Jack Keller wrote the music, while lyricist Howard Greenfield infused it with playful, seductive words, describing a man bewitched by love. However, producers ultimately kept the instrumental for the TV opening, believing it was more concise, recognizable, and modern. The lyrical version did not completely disappear. It was recorded by Steve Lawrence in a classic crooner style, turning the familiar melody into a romantic love song. Lyrics like, "Bewitched, bewitched, you've got me in your spell, you know your craft so well," reflected the series' script. A mix of magic and romance, supernatural power and very human emotions. Peggy Lee and others performed it, but Steve Lawrence made it most memorable. 15. Elizabeth Montgomery's nose twitch habit when casting spells. Even before Bewitched officially began filming, director William Asher had noticed that whenever Montgomery felt impatient, anxious, or waiting for something, she would purse her upper lip, causing her nose to twitch slightly. According to Herbie J. Pilato in Twitch Upon a Star, The Bewitched Life and Career of Elizabeth Montgomery, Asher realised this tiny gesture could become a signature sign of magic. Thus, it was brought on screen magically. Asher suggested Montgomery practice the lip-nose twitch before filming to see if it naturally occurred under pressure. She initially denied doing it, until one time at a bar she performed it by accident while drinking, and Asher exclaimed, "That's it!" When Bewitched began, the twitch became a visual cue for Samantha's magic. Early episodes show it in the opening and in scenes. A slight lip flick, followed by a nose twitch, accompanied by a soft xylophone sound. all enhancing the magical effect. Although viewers remembered it as a nose twitch, it was actually the upper lip moving first, causing the nose to follow, not the nose moving independently. From then on, audiences associated Samantha Stevens with her nose twitch. Wherever she appeared, at games, in theatres, or meeting fans, people would shout "Twitch!" Montgomery recalled fans at Dodgers or Chicago Cubs games calling "Liz, Twitch!" for her lucky magic, and sometimes even believing her twitching helped teams come back. What do you think of this quirky habit? Share your thoughts below. 14. Elizabeth Montgomery was actually pregnant 3 times during filming. During the filming of Bewitched, Elizabeth Montgomery was genuinely pregnant 3 times, each occasion becoming a behind-the-scenes crisis that the crew had to navigate cleverly. In the first season, when Samantha had just married into the Stevens family, Montgomery was expecting her first child in real life. Producers panicked. If her growing belly showed, the story of a newlywed witch would look like an ordinary family sitcom. The crew improvised with loose dresses, angled shots, and strategically placed furniture to conceal her bump. However, by her second pregnancy, hiding it became impossible. Instead of avoiding the issue, the writers boldly incorporated the real-life event into the story. Samantha became pregnant and gave birth to Tabitha, the little girl quickly becoming the new soul of Bewitched. The third pregnancy was likewise integrated into the plot, introducing Adam Stevens, the young son joining the magical Stevens family. 13. Dick York and Agnes Moorehead were close friends behind the scenes. On screen, the relationship between Endora and Darrin was a relentless battle, a sharp-tongued mother-in-law constantly tormenting her mortal son-in-law. Yet behind the scenes, the reality was entirely different. Agnes Moorehead, who played Endora, found in Dick York a kindred spirit she greatly admired. York was not just a co-star but the person she felt closest to on set. His sincerity, unique spiritual beliefs, and acting talent sparked a special empathy in Moorehead, a deeply devout woman. This created an intriguing paradox. 2 fierce on-screen rivals became close friends in real life. When York suffered a serious back injury and had to leave Bewitched, Moorehead felt the loss most profoundly. She witnessed not only a change in the crew, but also the absence of a trusted collaborator with whom she had shared many memorable moments during the early seasons. When Dick Sargent was brought in as his replacement, Moorehead did not hide her disappointment. At the first script reading, she bluntly stated, "I don't like change." 12. Montgomery played 2 main characters on the show. Elizabeth Montgomery refused to let her career be confined to the image of the perfect witch wife, Samantha Stevens. When she felt the character was becoming monotonous, she proactively requested a new challenge, portraying Serena, her rebellious cousin who loved parties and caused trouble. If Samantha embodied gentleness and grace, Serena was bold, edgy, fashion-forward, and unafraid to break all rules. This contrast not only enriched Bewitched's storyline, but also showcased Montgomery's rare ability to transform. Interestingly, Montgomery did not use her real name when playing Serena, opting for the stage name Pandora's Box, a play on Pandora's box, hinting at the chaotic surprises her character would bring. Many viewers initially believed Serena was played by a different actress until the truth was revealed. Through this dual portrayal, Montgomery not only brought 2 contrasting characters to life in the same show, but also asserted her artistry, daring to step outside comfort zones, reinvent herself, and leave a unique mark still admired by critics and audiences today. 11. Supporting actors wore their own clothes and accessories. According to Casey Rogers, who played Louise Tate, the behind-the-scenes of Bewitched was not as glamorous as many assumed. Supporting actors like Aunt Clara or nosy neighbour Gladys Kravitz often had to bring their own clothes to set a week in advance. The wardrobe department would dry clean and press them so that everything looked perfect on camera, as if custom prepared. Agnes Moorehead stood out. Her star-shaped brooch, sparkling with 8.5 carats of diamonds from an old mine, became almost her personal signature. Moorehead often wore it during photo shoots, and Elizabeth Montgomery loved admiring it whenever she saw Moorehead with it. When Moorehead passed away in 1974, her will specified that the precious brooch should be passed to her daughter, who would later become a familiar television face. As a family heirloom, the jewellery carried not just material value, but also the memory and legacy of a distinguished actress who helped define the soul of Bewitched. 10. Direct inspiration from two classic Hollywood films. I Married a Witch and Belle, Book and Candle. Before Samantha Stevens appeared on the small screen and became a television icon in Bewitched, 1964, Hollywood had experimented with beautiful witches in the 1940s and 1950s. Two films, I Married a Witch, 1942, and Belle, Book and Candle, 1958, laid the groundwork for the witch falls in love with a mortal trope, showing that audiences were captivated by a mix of supernatural, romance, and everyday life. In I Married a Witch, Veronica Lake played Jennifer, a witch resurrected from the 17th century to torment the descendants of the person who condemned and burned her. But her revenge plan failed when she fell for her mortal nemesis. Lake's character was alluring and audacious, reflecting a desire to escape imposed fate, a theme far beyond mere comedy. The film gained acclaim for blending screwball humour with supernatural elements, opening a new branch in American cinema, witches as central figures in relatable love stories rather than symbols of evil. 16 years later, Belle, Book and Candle brought the trope into the modern, lively setting of Greenwich Village. Kim Novak played Gillian, a young woman running an antique shop, living among mortals but coming from a mischievous witch family. Her love for Shep, James Stewart, posed a dilemma. Between true love and supernatural power, what would she choose? Also released by Columbia Pictures, the film shared many similarities with Bewitched, a woman striving to integrate while bound by her magical heritage. Because of the success of these films, Sol Sachs, the creator of Bewitched, admitted they directly influenced the idea of Samantha Stevens. Columbia Pictures, owning both films and the Bewitched production company, had a golden formula: mix romance, humour and mysticism to captivate audiences. Instead of stopping at a single film, they extended it into a nearly decade-long TV series, recreating the familiar yet fresh conflict between the magical and mortal worlds each week. Have you watched these two classic films? Share your thoughts in the comments. 9. Very creative special effects. In an era without computer-generated imagery, Bewitched still convinced viewers that magic was real, largely thanks to the special effects team led by Richard Dick Albane. He and his colleagues transformed the smallest details into vivid magical moments, all using practical tricks, cables, switches, and extraordinary creativity. A famous example was Samantha's vacuum cleaner, moving around the house without anyone controlling it. In reality, the team removed the brush, installed a reverse motor underneath, and operated it with a hidden switch off stage. Audiences in the 1960s saw magic. On set, it was meticulous engineering. Similarly, when Samantha angrily left a room and her suitcase flew from the closet, it was actually a crew member on a scaffold pulling strings like a puppet. If Samantha needed to clean the living room in an instant, Elizabeth Montgomery had to stand still while the director yelled, "Cut!" and the crew quickly tidied furniture, papers and knickknacks in seconds. Once the room was immaculate, filming resumed, and audiences believed it was magic. Even explosive effects carried risks. Bernard Fox, who played Dr. Bombay, revealed he was burned multiple times by fireworks used for magical appearances. The skill, risk and burns contributed to Bewitched's immortal magic, a vivid testament to creativity before the digital era. Albane admitted the team always prepared multiple backup plans, as a failed shot meant restarting, a luxury the tight television schedule rarely allowed. Did you notice these creative effects? Share your thoughts in the comments. 8. Fire incident in Season 7. During the 7th season, a fire unexpectedly broke out in the kitchen, the heart of the Stevens on-screen home. The flames were not massive, but sufficient to destroy a set familiar to audiences for years. The crew faced a crisis: either delay production or rebuild the entire kitchen in record time. While viewers eagerly anticipated the new season, the crew was immersed in chaos. Early production days involved evacuating the set, filming exteriors in Salem and other Massachusetts locations to buy time while workers rushed to repair the set. Once rebuilt, the kitchen appeared completely refreshed. A breakfast nook facing the backyard, a wider passage, and even a side staircase to the second floor. Interior design, curtains and paint colours were changed, as if the Stevens home had been upgraded by accidental magic. Were you surprised by this transformation? Share your thoughts in the comments. 7. Fashion icon. Bewitched was a living time capsule, reflecting the evolution of American fashion over more than a decade. When the show debuted in 1964, Samantha Stevens appeared in sheath dresses, sweaters, and shirt dresses reminiscent of the 1950s, evoking classic elegance and sophistication. Even while doing household chores, she didn't hesitate to wear jeans, button-up shirts, and keds, portraying a modern, active woman who still retained her femininity. As the series progressed through later seasons, Samantha's wardrobe changed noticeably, reflecting early 1960s trends and moving into the 1970s. Shift dresses, mini skirts, bolder patterns and vibrant colours appeared frequently, giving the character a youthful, lively appearance. In some episodes, Samantha even transformed into characters with high fashion styles inspired by Parisian trends, showing that the production team was not afraid to experiment and get creative. Bewitched became a miniature fashion museum, allowing audiences to follow style evolution across 8 seasons. The show offered not only on-screen magic, but also fashion inspiration, preserving the mark of several decades, from classic cinched waist dresses to short, bright, daring designs, reflecting the endless creativity of the behind-the-scenes designers. 6. Montgomery owned 20% of the show. After 5 seasons with Bewitched, Elizabeth Montgomery considered stepping away. She was exhausted from playing Samantha Stevens and sought new challenges. However, ABC was not ready to let their biggest star go. According to author Herbie J. Pilato, the network offered so much money that Montgomery couldn't refuse, forcing her to reconsider. This deal not only kept her on the show, but also changed Montgomery's status within the production team. During negotiations, Montgomery and her husband at the time, director William Asher, formed Ashmont Productions, the company behind Bewitched from the mid-1960s onward. Thanks to this strategic move, Montgomery was no longer just the on-screen face. She became one of the show's actual owners. This was rare for actresses of that era, when production power was usually in the hands of studios and men behind the scenes. By the time the show ended after its 8th season, Montgomery reportedly owned up to 20% of Bewitched. This meant that whenever the show was rebroadcast, a common phenomenon for decades, she received a share of royalties worth millions, even when no longer appearing on screen. 5. Many networks attempted to remake Bewitched. For decades after Bewitched ended, Hollywood continuously tried to revive this television icon. In 2011, CBS commissioned a script for a remake by screenwriter Mark Lawrence, under producers Douglas Wick and Lucy Fisher, the duo behind the 2005 Bewitched film. However, the project never advanced past the script stage, leaving questions about whether Samantha and Darrin could still appeal to 21st century audiences. 3 years later, NBC tried its luck with a bold idea: a continuation series centered on Daphne, Samantha's granddaughter. The script was assigned to Abby Cohn and Mark Silverstein, familiar rom-com writers. NBC even pledged to produce a pilot, but the project quickly faded into obscurity. showing that the weight of Bewitched's legacy could be a double-edged sword. Attracting attention while subjecting remakes to intense scrutiny, by 2018, ABC took a bigger gamble with a modern version written by Kenya Barris, Blackish, and Yamara Taylor. This reboot explored racial differences. Samantha was rewritten as a black single witch married to a white man, reflecting contemporary social issues. Despite generating strong curiosity, ABC ultimately froze the project because the script didn't meet expectations. 4. Moorehead was cast as Endora after a chance meeting with Montgomery. There's an interesting anecdote about how Agnes Moorehead got the role of Endora in Bewitched. According to accounts, Elizabeth Montgomery accidentally met the Oscar-nominated actress at Bloomingdale's department store. Montgomery directly asked whether Moorehead had ever considered doing television. Moorehead smiled and gave a non-committal reply. Maybe, maybe not. By 1964, Agnes Moorehead was officially chosen as Endora, Samantha Stevens' sharp-tongued witch mother-in-law. This was a turning point in her career, as Moorehead had never intended to commit long-term to television. Previously known for stage and film roles, often receiving prestigious award nominations, Bewitched changed everything. Endora quickly became a television icon, commanding, mischievous, yet witty and charming. 3. Richard Crenna almost played Darrin. From the early days of conceptualizing Bewitched, casting Darrin Stephens became an intense behind-the-scenes battle. Initially, Dick Sargent was considered the top candidate, but he had to decline due to a contract with another sitcom, Broadside. When that door seemed closed, Richard Crenna's name came up. Crenna had recently gained acclaim with The Real McCoys and was seen as a promising choice to pair with Elizabeth Montgomery on screen. However, having just spent years on a long-running series, Crenna didn't want to immediately commit to a new project. He declined the offer, paving the way for another star to make television history, Dick York, an actor already established in film and Broadway, notably recognised for his performance in They Came to Cordura. 3. Season 7. Christmas episode written by African-American high school students. During the 1970 Christmas season, Bewitched aired the special episode Sisters at Heart. The story began with the innocent friendship between Tabitha Stevens and a black girl named Lisa Wilson. When teased that they couldn't be sisters because of their skin colour, Tabitha used magic to give both girls black and white spots on their faces, proving that love knows no colour. Parallel to this children's story was an adult subplot. Mr. Brockway, a white businessman, refused to sign a $1 million contract with Darrin because he mistakenly thought he had married a black woman. To teach Brockway a lesson, Samantha used magic to make him see everyone around, including himself, as black. By putting the racist in the position he had scorned, the episode conveyed the message that injustice and prejudice crumble when one sees others through one's own lens. In terms of its message, Sisters at Heart was one of Bewitched's boldest episodes, airing at a time when America was still heavily divided by race. Notably, the original script wasn't written by Hollywood screenwriters, but by 22 10th grade African American students in Los Angeles. Elizabeth Montgomery and her husband, director William Asher, involved the class in production, turning a school story into a nationally televised episode. This made Sisters at Heart both a work of art and a socially educational project. 2. Marion Lawn. Aunt Clara collected antique doorknobs. Marion Lawn, who brought the lovable but clumsy Aunt Clara to life in Bewitched, added a very real-life detail to the role, her passion for collecting antique doorknobs. Off-screen, Lawn owned over 1,000 doorknobs of various shapes and materials, hunted from all over. Many props in the show came from this quirky collection, making Aunt Clara's character and her doorknobs feel even more authentic and charming. 1. Tammy Grimes almost became Samantha Tammy Grimes, a Broadway star who won a Tony for the unsinkable Molly Brown in 1961, almost became Samantha the Witch in Bewitched. At that time, the character was still called Cassandra, and Grimes was Screen Gem's first choice to take on the promising role. The studio believed her fame would bring major appeal from the premiere. However, Grimes saw issues in the script. She openly questioned, if the character had supernatural powers, why was she only fussing in the kitchen and living room? Why not use magic to prevent wars or solve traffic jams in Los Angeles? These idealistic concerns quickly created a deadlock with the production team. Unable to reach an agreement, Grimes declined the role and returned to Broadway in high spirits. Over half a century later, the behind-the-scenes secrets, real-life shocks, and seemingly small details of Bewitched still astonish audiences. From Elizabeth Montgomery portraying two characters, Agnes Moorehead being cast as Endora after a chance encounter, to Alice Pierce's tragedy and the handcrafted yet creative special effects, all contributed to a vivid, dramatic, magical world that left an indelible mark on American television history. What about you? Among these 20 facts, which surprised you the most, delighted you the most, or even moved you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to continue exploring the thrilling behind-the-scenes stories of classic films, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any exciting details. Thank you for following along.